Hi friends, it's Grace and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to talk about REALMATHON, which is a readathon that I'm very excited about happening in March. And this readathon is hosted by Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy. So she has an entire video on the breakdown of how this readathon works. She runs it every year. This is the 4th year in a row that REALMATHon has happened. And this year her theme is Welcome to City. Yes, you have something to say? Maisie has some input. Say hello to the good people. Not that I'm complaining, but I don't know what is up with her today. Every time I have sat down on any surface, she's been right up in my lap. I love the love, but I'm just like, why? What's different today? But we are talking about REALMATHon. So basically the way that this readathon works on a basic level is that there are 4 teams and each team represents a family that controls some part of Carrion City. So I chose to join the Stingers, and the hosts for the Stingers are Mel and Katy. So I'll have both of their channels linked in the description below, and you should definitely go check both of them out. I was really excited to join their team. And the Stingers control the docks of Carrion City. Now we have a whole bunch of lore, and like I mentioned, Cassidy breaks all of that down in her video, and I would like to let her explain it anyway because in my opinion she's outdone herself. This is a really cool idea, and she also has merch for these readathons. So I bought a bookmark which was very gorgeous, and it's actually in my current read, but I think that I can take it out of there to show you that it is it's foiled and it's so pretty. I mean, I joined Mel and Katy's team because they were the hosts, but I can't deny that the Stingers do represent some of my favorite colors. So I love this bookmark, and we have the sea creatures on here. So that is gorgeous, but I'm getting off topic. What we're here to talk about is my pile of possibilities for REALMATHon. And I have laid all of this out on the spreadsheet that was so kindly made and posted in the Discord for the readathon, but there's a lot of strategy that's going into this for me because I'm not somebody who normally reads a large number of books, and those of you that have followed my channel for a long time will probably know that about me. I usually clock in anywhere between 5 and 7 books a month, and don't get me wrong, I know that for somebody who is not a prolific reader, that's a lot of books. But I also know that when it comes to a competitive readathon, there are people who can knock out like 20 books in a month, no problem. And I am not one of those teammates, but I'm going to do my best, and I have strategized to that end. However, I'm just going to go through the books that I have on my list because there are 12 of them, and I'm most likely like 90% chance not going to get through 12 books because I just don't generally do that. Plus one of them is very massive, but I'm still holding to my own personal reading schedule while all of this is going on. But I'm really excited to read for Team Stingers, and without any further ado, let's get into what some of the books are and what these prompts are. So just to get it out of the way now, some prompts involve like a book being more highly rated than the previous book you read and stuff like that. So the order that I'm going through the books in this video is not necessarily the order that I plan to read them in the month. I do have sort of a different strategy for that, but I don't want to get into all of that because that could definitely change depending on how fast I'm reading and how well things are going. So I think that I piled them all up, as you probably saw in the thumbnail, and I'm just going to take them from the pile and tell you about why I picked them and what prompts they fill and how many points that represents for the team or for attacking another team, etc. I always end up on tangents, but just briefly, I should mention that the way that this readathon works is each team has 2 prompts that are specific to your team. So the 2 prompts for Team Stingers are you can get 10 points for an author that you've read from before, and you can get another 10 points for a book having your next book boyfriend/girlfriend/love interest. And then there is a generic prompt because of the theme of the readathon being Carrion City, where you can get an extra 10 points if your book takes place in an urban setting. And so that urban prompt, that applies to everybody in the whole readathon, but the other two would be different for a person from a different team. And so I have taken that into account when selecting some of my books as well. Honestly, I don't know how Cassidy makes these videos laying out how the entire readathon works so clearly and so well. I know that she does have the Google Docs she creates and stuff to help her out if anything comes across unclear, but as soon as I try to start explaining something, I end up going in 3 different directions, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I should have mentioned that, but like, oh, I should have mentioned that. That's important too. So I think the whole point of this is to let you know that if you don't understand what I am saying and you want to join REALMATHON, just go watch Cassidy's video, please. Now, I mentioned that there is a super massive book on here because I am still reading somewhat in keeping with my own personal reading plans. And you might think that I am literally crazy for putting this on here in the month that there is a readathon on, but I'm scheduled to read The Bone Hunters by Steven Erikson, which is book 6 in Malazan Book of the Fallen, in March. I'm supposed to read it in March, and I have been really enjoying reading a Malazan book once every 2 months or so, and so I don't really want to push it. And to be fair, I can technically take like the entire month to finish this book, just as long as I do actually finish it in the month of March. And generally, as long as you read more than half of a book in the month, it will count for points and for the number of pages that you read. So with that said, this is a 1,200 page behemoth of a book, and the highest level of points that you can get for extra page count in your books is 80 points for 801 pages and up. So I don't gain anything extra for reading 1,200 pages, anything above 800 really. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start The Bone Hunters in February, and I'm going to try and get approximately 400 pages into it before March starts, because not only does that fit me reading more than half of it in March, that still puts me above 800 pages of this book in the month of March. So in terms of what prompts it fills for the readathon, I have chosen this one as a defending book where the points will be positive for my own team. And so we have a inspiring speech worth 5 positive points, which means that this book has a higher rating than the last book that I've read. And The Bone Hunters clocks in at a 4.48 on Goodreads. So that's a pretty high rating. I could finish this after most of the other books, almost all of the other books that I have on my TBR. It doesn't really matter when I finish this in order to get those points, because there's only one other book that's higher rated than this. So this will apply for almost any time in the month that I finish it. And we also have Strength in Numbers, which is a book that has sibling characters, for another 5 points. Then we have Move Up the Ranks, which is a title with a title, that's worth 4 points. And The Bone Hunters are a group that are like, that is the title that they hold, is The Bone Hunters. Then we have Write a Policy, which is also worth 4 points, and that is an even number of letters in the title. And then we also have Create a Fake ID, which is a morally gray character worth 3 points. I don't need to read the book to know that there's gonna be a morally gray character in here, because it's Malazan. Almost every single character in there is morally gray, so I think we're pretty safe on that one. Now, this does fill our first team prompt for the Stingers, because I have read Steven Erikson before, and it is yet to be seen whether it fills my next book boyfriend or not. Malazan is not really the type of series to have that necessarily. However, there have been characters in here where, like, not that there's like overt romantic plot lines too often, but there have been characters in the series so far where I've been like, okay, no, I love you. So like, on the off chance that that does exist in The Bone Hunters, maybe I'll be able to fill that one. And then it is an urban setting. So with the aforementioned 80 points for page count, this book should clock in at 121 positive points for Stingers, with the potential for that to be 131 points if there's a book boyfriend in here, which, like, I'm not holding my breath about, but it's possible. Now, I didn't start with the Bone Hunters on purpose. However, that is pretty much the only book that I am absolutely guaranteed to be reading in the month of March. It's like the only thing that I actually planned with any concreteness. So let's just move on from there into the true possibilities. Next up, we have The River of Silver by S.A. Chakraborty. So this one also fills our team prompt number 1 because I have read from this author before, and I still have the second team prompt unchecked because these are short stories from the world of Daevabad, and I don't know who the short stories are following specifically. So there is a couple of people in mind in Daevabad that I could definitely pin down as a great book love interest, but I don't know if they're going to be in here or not, so that remains to be seen. But I do have the urban setting checked off just because this, if it takes place in Daevabad, is very much a fantastical city and an urban setting. Then in terms of prompts, this fits for B&E, where the author uses an initial for 4 points. It also fits for Spread Fake Gossip, where the title uses the word of for -3 points. Then we have Take a Hostage, a character with a criminal background, for -2 points. And this is hinging on the fact that I'm pretty sure a character is included in here that definitely had criminal activity in the main series, so that's kind of what I'm basing that on. Then Knock Out an Opponent for 1 point is a book that you own physically, which obviously I do. And then I also have this down for Plan a Coup, which is a 5-star prediction. So this will fit for being a 5-star prediction regardless. However, on the negative side of the points for attacking another team, there also is a prompt worth 5 points for something being a 5-star read. So if this turns from a 5-star prediction into an actual 5-star read, there is the potential to get more points there. We'll just have to wait and see, because the Daevabad trilogy was like a 5-star trilogy for me, but I generally have a little bit more trouble like with shorter things. So these stories are something that I can predict that I'm going to love, but we'll see if that actually pans out for me or not. And then I also have this checked off as a potential read for me during the weekend of March, like 13th to 16th, whatever those dates are, because that weekend is known as the Gala of Peace, and it essentially is just a weekend-long readathon for 48 hours where every book that you can start and finish during that weekend gets you an extra 10 points. So if this book gets fit into Gala or Peace Gala weekend, that would mean that this fits for 30 defend points for my team and -31 attacking points against whoever I choose to attack. Next up, we have Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, and this is a book that I also currently have down as attacking another team, and this is a reread for me. So because of that, I am able to certainly say some of the prompts that it fits a little bit better. For this one, I have down first Decode a Message, which means that the combination of the title and the author's name contains all 5 vowels, and that is worth -5 points. Then we also have Plant Evidence at -5, and that is a 5-star read. I really loved Half a Soul when I read it. Then we also have Knock Out an Opponent, which is a book that you own physically. And then we have our kind of bonus prompts and our baseline prompts checked off as well, because this definitely does take place in an urban setting. A good portion of it takes place in London. And then we also have the fact that this is an author that I've read from before, and then it's also a great book boyfriend. I loved the love interest. I loved both of them actually so much the first time I read this. And then I also have this book down as a possible Gala of Peace weekend edition. And I forgot to mention actually with The River of Silver, but that book is 228 pages long, so that would have an additional 20 points for page count, and which I forgot to mention, and this is 239 pages, so it would also have 20 positive points for page count. So with that all included, that would mean that provided that this gets done on that weekend readathon, this would be 30 defending points for the stingers, and then -41 points for whichever family I decide to attack. Next up, we have The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. And so this one fits for an urban setting, and I also have the book boyfriend prompt checked off on this one in the hopes that it does have a good book love interest. Given the fact that it's romantasy, I am hoping for those vibes. But just for our general prompt, for this one, we have attend training, which is to read a book that any host has given 5 stars. And I do not remember which host gave this 5 stars, but I did make a giant list after cross-referencing all of their socials, so I do know that there is a host that has given this 5 stars. And then we have an inspiring speech, which is a higher rating than the last book you read. So this comes in on Goodreads at a 4.30, which is a pretty high rating, and so I shouldn't have any trouble strategizing in a way where I finish this after a book that is rated lower than it. Then we have Write a Policy, which is an even number of letters in the title for 4 points. Create a Fake ID, a morally gray character for plus 3 points. This one's based on vibes after reading the synopsis, so those 3 points are kind of hopeful, but if they do not apply after I read the book, I can always just take that prompt out and see if there's any others that it fits. But the next one is Collect Signatures, a book rec you have gotten more than once. So I kind of count a general recommendation from BookTube. I've seen people that have enjoyed this. But the second recommendation that I've got is from one of my old coworkers who read this like last year, I think, earlier last year, and really enjoyed it and was kind of the one that pushed me to buy it. And I do want to read it, but I obviously haven't yet. So that's where hopefully the readathon will be the push to read it that comes in. So this also comes in at 491 pages, which is a little lengthier than a couple of the other ones, and one reason that I do not have this down for the Gala of Peace weekend, because that's a little bit lengthy for a 48-hour readathon for me. But when all is said and done, this one should come in at 78 defensive points for the stingers. Next up, we have Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales, and to be honest, if this readathon was not happening, I may have started this already because I had it pre-ordered, and when it arrived, I was really excited. This is one of my anticipated releases of the year, and I really, really loved the second book in this series, even more so than the first one, which I really enjoyed as well. So this one I have chosen the attacking prompts for just because I found that they have matched up better with this one for me. However, just to start with the basics, this does fit for the first team prompt of an author that I've read from before, and it also fits for the second prompt of a book love interest because this is another case where I love both of the people that we're following in this romance, but I do think that Wendell is a great book boyfriend. He is so like whimsical and funny, and I would probably react to him much in the same way that Emily does, but very, very entertaining, and I love him. So that's for the 2 stingers prompts, and then this also takes place in an urban setting because based on what we know going into this, it should be taking place in a kingdom in a highly populated area. So I do believe that that applies. Obviously, if it doesn't once I read the book, then that can be adjusted, but going in, it should. Now we have our negative points prompts, which are decode a message, where the title and the author has all 5 vowels accounted for. Well, I put down plant evidence for a 5-star read. Maybe I truly am planting evidence, but I haven't read this yet, so who knows. But I put down a 5-star prediction and a 5-star read because I am just that confident in the prediction, which is honestly really funny to me. I forgot that I had selected that. Then we have Spread Fake Gossip, where the title uses the word of for negative 3 points. And we also have Knock Out an Opponent for a book you own physically, which obviously I do. And then this one comes in at 368 pages, which is slightly unfortunate, to be honest, because it is so far on the upper end of that 201 to 400 page range, where like it doesn't get the extra points for being just over 400, if you know what I mean. But I'm so excited to read this that I really don't care about that. However, the slightly longer length of this one is why I didn't select it for my Gala of Peace possibilities. I think that this would just be a little bit longer than I would want on that weekend. So all in all, we would have 20 positive points for defending, and those in this case are the page count points, and then negative 45 points against another team. Next up, we have another potential reread for me, and that is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. And I chose this one for boosting the Stingers family, and this is also a slightly strategic pick for me. For one, I know that I love this book, and it's very short, so I can hopefully get through this on the Gala of Peace weekend. That's kind of my idea. However, this is also, for how much I loved it, shockingly lowly rated on Goodreads. It only has a 3.76, so I can kind of make sure, if I try, that this comes before another book that I want to be more highly rated than the previous book I finished. So I can maybe get some of those points if this book comes before another book, if that makes sense. That's not to say that there's only that reason for reading this, because I know I love this book. I have wanted to reread it for a long time, so that would be a great opportunity for me. However, somehow I ended up selecting the wrong thing on my spreadsheet, because in reality I actually have this as a attacking book, not a defending book. So the prompts that we have that fit for this book are a title, an author that has all 5 vowels for negative 5 points, Plant Evidence, which is a 5-star read, which I already know that this is because I loved it so much the first time. Then we have Go Undercover, which is that the title is under the author's name on the cover, for negative 4 points. And then we have Knock Out an Opponent, which is a book you own physically. Then this fits for our first team prompt as an author that I've read from before. However, I don't have the second team prompt selected. I feel like the relationship in here is too fraught, and this is like, it's a story about like a relationship, but it is not a romance in the classic sense. Like, this is not like your book girlfriend vibes, because this is like a sad story. It also doesn't really take place in an urban, like, this one, maybe my memory will be refreshed a little bit. Maybe they do live in a city, but this book mostly takes place inside of their apartment. So I need to be reminded where that apartment actually is. If it's in a city, then this does take place in an urban setting, but I can't remember, so I don't have that one checked off at the moment. And this book, being 240 pages long, is another one that I have down as a possibility for the Gala of Peace weekend. So with all of that said, this should come in at 30 defending points for Team Stingers and negative 25 points against another team. Next up is another book that I actually do have down as a defense book. This one's not a mistake. And that is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. This comes in at a 3.89 on Goodreads, so I might start the month with this and then slide in one of those books where I have it down for having a higher rating than the previous book I've read, because a lot of the books are higher rated than this. 3.89 is one of the lower ratings that I have on this TBR. However, I was able to put this down for the prompt Attend Training for a book that a host has given 5 stars. Then there is also To Win a Street Race, which is a fast-paced read. Kind of counting on that with this one, since it's sort of like a locked door thriller. The other prompts that I have down here kind of apply to that too. We have Launder Money for a wealthy character, and in this book, the like apartment that our character goes to house sit for is in like a really luxurious high-end building, so that's kind of where I'm getting that from. Then we have Restock the Armory, which is your favorite trope, and I'm considering that for this one like the isolated locked door aspect of the mystery, because I really love that trope in mystery thrillers. And then we have, like I mentioned, we have An Inspiring Speech, which is to have a higher rating than the last book read. So actually I was mistaken when I talked about this being the first book of the month. I know it's going to be early, but there's another book that I have in mind for before this one because it has a lower rating. So we will mention that when we get there. This unfortunately doesn't fit either of the Stingers prompts for me, which might come as a shock to you, but I have actually never read a Riley Sager book. So this is not an author that I've read from before. And I don't think this is gonna have like a book boyfriend, but I suppose I could be mistaken on that, but just based on the tone that's set, I don't really think so. However, it does take place in an urban setting, so there's 10 points for that. And this one is 368 pages for 20 page count points. And so overall, Lock Every Door brings in 48 defending points for Team Stingers. Next up, we have the book that I might be most unsure about for March, and the only real reason for that is because it's a little bit lengthier than some of the others for slightly less points payoff. But the reason it's on here is because I do honestly just really want to read it, and that is Quicksilver by Callie Hart. So this is one that I have chosen for negative points, and it's not an author that I have read before. However, I am hoping that it will have a book boyfriend, so I have that checked off. And it doesn't seem, based on the synopsis, like this takes place in an urban setting. However, maybe there will be an urban setting throughout the book, and maybe it's just the initial premise that doesn't take place in an urban, highly populated area. So that one kind of remains to be seen, but I don't currently have that checked off. When it comes to the other regular prompts, we have Pickpocket, which is to steal from another TBR. And the place that I got this from was the winner of a poll in Discord for someone else's TBR. So I just saw that that was on there and stole it for my own TBR. Then we have Go Undercover, which is a title under the author's name for -4 points. Then we have Knockout an Opponent, a book you own physically, for -1. And then we have Plan a Coup, which is a 5-star prediction. So there are a couple others on here, like a character with a criminal background, for example. Actually, that's the only one where, like, I could potentially read the book and be like, oh, there is a character with a criminal background, like I can add those points to the prompts, but I have no way to know that without reading it, really. So I don't have that on there or anything. Only the things that I know for sure apply. But this book does come in at 624 pages. So obviously, it's not one that I'm going to be trying to read for the Gala of Peace weekend readathon. I'm thinking that maybe this will just depend on how the rest of my reading is going, because I am excited about it. And those 624 pages do mean that this would get 60 page count points, which is nothing to sneeze at when you look at the numbers on a lot of these other books. 60 points is pretty high, but because of the other prompts that I've chosen and the negative, like attacking prompts, this would have 60 defending points and then -21 points towards whatever team I'm attacking. Okay, next up we have a book that I am pretty much certain that I am going to get to on the Gala of Peace weekend, and that is Heartstopper by Alice Oseman, volume 4 to be particular. So the reason that I'm pretty sure I'm going to get to this one is because it's pretty easy to get through a graphic novel, and because of that there's sort of like an unwritten, actually I don't even know if it's unwritten or if at this point it's actually just a written rule, but generally during the readathon, graphic novels and manga will count for half of their page count just because they are so quick and easy to get through. So this comes in at 384, I think, pages. So I just have it down for 190 pages, which does mean that there are no page count points associated with this because it doesn't crack that 200 mark, but that's okay, because this actually does really well in other areas. So first of all, it is able to hit hopefully Gala of Peace for 10 points, and then it hits all 3 of the like urban and team prompts, because this takes place in an urban area. Heartstopper, I forget where exactly it takes place, but it's definitely like urban UK. Then we have the author that I've read from before, which I absolutely have. This is volume 4, so I've already read the other 3. And then we have the like book love interest prompt. Now, to be fair, this is more of a theoretical, like, I don't ever actually read books and consider like somebody that I would genuinely want to date. That's just not really how my brain works. So when I consider like a book love interest, it's somebody who I think like would be a great partner. So the reason that I'm mentioning that is just because obviously in Heartstopper, the main characters are teenagers. So I'm not saying that like I would date a teenager. I'm just saying that like the way that the romance and the kind of wholesome nature of this book, it makes me think like, yes, these are perfect book love interests. And so that, if that makes sense, then that's great, because like that's kind of how my brain thinks about it, where in a romance book, obviously in a romance you still have to like the love interest. If you don't like them, then it wouldn't be a good book love interest. And I love the relationships in here, so that's where that's coming from. I just wanted to clarify that, just because the characters in this are so young. And for the other prompts, we have Attend Training, which is a book that any host has given 5 stars. Then we have Inspiring Speech, which is higher rated than the last book you read. And this is the one book on my TBR that is higher rated than The Bone Hunters by Steven Erikson. So I could finish this at any point during the month and it would be higher rated than the last book that I read. Some of the others I need to be strategic with, but I know that this one is going to be higher no matter what I do. And then we have Strength in Numbers, which is a book that has sibling characters. And then we have Increase Security, which is multiple people on the cover. We've got both Nick and Charlie on the cover here. Then Write a Policy, which is an even number of letters in the title. So all said and done, even though this doesn't have any page count points, if I finish it on Gala of Peace weekend, it will be 63 defense points for Teen Stingers. Okay, next up we have the actual lowest rated book on my TBR for March. So this is what I was getting Lock Every Door mixed up with, is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, which has a 3.65 on Goodreads. So this might be what I start the month with, because I can go in succeeding order of increasing ratings, and that makes it pretty easy. So this one I have chosen as a defense book for Teen Stingers. And in this one, we have that Lucy Foley is an author that I have read from before. And then we also have an urban setting, because of course this takes place in Paris. I do not have the book love interest prompt checked off on here because I don't really know much about the characters we're going to encounter in here. I don't really get the feeling that there's going to be like a great love interest in here, but I could be wrong. And then for the other prompts, we have Attend Training, which is a book that any host has given 5 stars. And in case you were wondering, after I made my big list of books that hosts had given 5 stars, I kind of used that to influence my selections, because it was a large list and it had a lot of books on it that I was interested in that are on my shelves. So it was pretty easy to hit that prompt if I was just consulting that list. There were so many options to choose from. Then we have Strength in Numbers, which is a book that has sibling characters, because our premise here is that our main character is asked to go check on her brother's apartment and then wonders what happened to him. Then we have Win a Street Race for a fast-paced read, and Launder Money for a wealthy character. And the reason that I have that on here is because one of the mysteries kind of mentioned in the synopsis of this book is that the main character is suspicious of how her brother is affording this, and she's wondering what he has going on in his life that could maybe be suspicious. Like, why is he so wealthy? Like, she has no idea why he would have this much money. And then this is 384 pages long, which again is kind of unfortunate because it's just so close to 400 pages, but not quite. But with all of those prompts, this one comes in at 55 defense points for the Stingers. Okay, 2 more books to talk about. We're almost there. Next up, we have The Haunting of Velkwood by Gwendolyn Keist, which I have chosen as an attacking book to use negative point prompts for. And for this one, it is unfortunately not an author I have read from before, and I don't think it's going to have a book love interest, and I don't think it takes place in an urban setting. A couple of those I could be wrong about, so we'll just have to see after reading this. But one of my reasons for choosing this book is that I have it down as a potential for the Gala of Peace weekend because it is 246 pages long. So it would get those 10 points for the weekend readathon and 20 page count points. But in terms of our other prompts, we have Dakota Message, which is the title and author having all 5 vowels. We have Spread Fake Gossip, where the title uses the word of. We have a bar fight, which is a violent word in the title, so haunting in this case. And then we have Knockout and Opponent, which is a book that you own physically. And obviously, I'm not using negative prompts for all of these books, like half of them are positive, but one thing you will notice is that I do own all of these books. I'm definitely using this readathon as an opportunity to pare down my physical TBR. I don't really need to go outside of my physical TBR because I have so many books in like my space that work for so many of these prompts, so there's really no reason not to. And with all of that, this would come in at 30 defense points and negative 11 for against another team. So this is one where the point count is definitely lower than some others. However, it would be nice to kind of slide it in there as a defense book if I can get it done on the Gala of Peace weekend. But this admittedly is a book that is most likely to drop out of the TBR if I don't have time for it, because it's just not one of the top point getters for my value. And then last but certainly not least, we have another book on here that I'm really excited to read, and it is actually the second top heavy hitter for points aside from the Bone Hunters, and parts of these definitely have to do with their page counts, but that is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. So I have chosen this as a positive defending the Stingers family book, and then this is obviously a little long. It's 623 pages, so I'm definitely not attempting this in the weekend readathon. However, it does fill the other 3 10-point prompts. This is an author that I've read from before, has a book boyfriend in there, and it does take place in an urban setting. There are a couple possibilities for what the urban setting can be in this series, but Fourth Wing took place in an urban setting, and this would either be the same setting as that for part of the book, or there's another possibility for another urban setting that I feel like could possibly have some page time in here. But regardless, both of those would apply, so it doesn't really matter in that sense. But for the normal prompts, we've got Strength in Numbers, which is a book that features sibling characters. Then we have Inspiring Speech, which is rated higher than the last book you read, and Iron Flame is currently at a 4.37 on Goodreads, so that should be pretty easy. That is one of the highest rated books that I have on here. Then we have Win a Street Race, which is a fast-paced read, and to be fair, I am choosing that based on Fourth Wing. Like, that was a very fast-paced read in my opinion, so if this is in the same vein, then it will definitely apply. Then we have Create a Fake ID for a morally gray character, and Restock the Armory for Favorite Trope. So this one honestly hits so many things, and it comes in at 109 defense points for the Stingers. So this is another priority for me along with the Bone Hunters, where I don't see myself having trouble finishing this because I did read Fourth Wing very quickly because I was having such a good time with it. So I'm predicting and hoping the same for Iron Flame, but it is a little bit longer, so it will be balanced with some of those other shorter picks that I have on the list. But when all is said and done, that is 12 books on the TBR for 4,851 pages. And my really good reading months tend to clock in at around 4,000 or 4,100 pages. So if I really like motor my way through these, I could probably get through like 11 of these 12 books, but we're really just gonna see how it goes. I really don't think I'm gonna finish all of them. That's like a pipe dream, but I'm gonna finish as many as I can, and I'm gonna get as many points for the Stingers as I can. And if I like change gears and I wanna read something different, I'm gonna allow myself the freedom to do that. Even now, I'm still going to try and think of a few more books, like if I see places where I could maybe get more points than a current book that I have on here. But for now, the reason that I'm really happy with this is because I feel like It obviously is fantasy heavy, but that's what my reading is anyway. But I feel like this is a good mix of like fantasy, romantasy, thriller, horror, cozy fantasy, even a little bit of like lit fic vibes. So I feel like right now it's a really good balance. And if I'm not mistaken, I currently have 6 books slotted down for attacking and 6 books slotted in for defending the team. So it would be really nice if I got to do a balance of both of those. And I'm really excited. So let me know what you think. If you are here from like the REALMATHON Discord or anything, welcome and go Stingers. And if you're on a different team, then you're going down. But honestly, I'm a competitive person, but when it comes to stuff like this, I'm like, I just hope everybody has fun. I want to win, but I just hope everybody has fun. I'm not like a trash talker because to me, there's nothing more embarrassing than doing like the most trash talking and then losing. So I don't really do that. I want to win, but I don't really do that. So that is it for my March TBR and my REALMAthon plans. Obviously, like I mentioned, they could change slightly, but this is what we've got. Now, this video is probably really long because I feel like I've talked for a long time, but I hope that you really enjoyed it. Please do like if you liked it, subscribe if you would like to see more from me. Don't forget to check out Cassidy, Mel, and Katy if you don't already follow their channels, and Cassidy's video about the readathon as a whole. As far as I know, there's still time to sign up until March 1st hits. So drop me a comment if you want to talk about anything. As always, I will have my Discord with Ben and my socials linked in the description if you're interested in any of that, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye!